It's the mother of all talk shows. Go get 'em, George.
George Galloway, and the mother of all talk shows. Welcome to the Open University of the Airwaves with George Galloway.
Britain is going to fight China, but don't worry, we'll have Australia fighting alongside us. Thus spake the inky-fingered clerk, John Healey, Healy. I know you've never heard of him, have no idea who he is, but today he declared that Britain and Australia will go to war with China. I promise you, it'll be a different outcome than the Opium Wars. And whether or not we're going to fight China after we've fought Russia, or whether we're going to do both of them at the same time, isn't yet clear. Now, I believe that golf is a good walk spoiled. Today, we had the ultimate orange walk across the fairways of Turnberry in Ayrshire, and it didn't half spoil July, as orange walks frequently do for people like me. It's all coming up, and Gayatri and I have got a big announcement. Stay tuned.
Curious about our curriculum? Have something to say? Then call us now to join the debate on the mother of all talk shows. The only education you can get for free. George Galloway. The mother of all talk shows. With George Galloway. The world is our classroom, and you're welcome to sit in and join the seminar.
Well, first the announcement. Gayatri and I are not having another baby, but we are going to make another film from the makers of The Killings of Tony Blair and Killing Kelly. Will come as soon as we can get it to the screen, free to air for millions of people around the world. Will be the third in the trilogy, this one called provisionally Killing Gaza. We will begin crowdfunding for it very shortly. There'll be more details coming along on the show on Wednesday. Now, the golfing expedition at the public's expense, British and United States public expense, of millions of dollars, so that Donald Trump could play golf on his golf course at Turnberry, which is a very nice place, I must say. Gayatri and I have stayed in the hotel as the guest not of Donald Trump. But the idea that the public should pay for the self-aggrandizement and enrichment of Donald Trump is surely a bridge too far. But he did claim to be working whilst he was playing. He brokered a ceasefire, apparently, between Thailand and Cambodia, whilst on, I don't know, the 7th hole. But the truth is, there is no ceasefire between Cambodia and Thailand. The firing has not ceased. The war is raging. We'll be asking Colonel Douglas Macgregor what he knows about that later. But the big orange monster is becoming more and more monstrous in the things that he is saying. On Gaza, for example, today, he said that if the hostages are not released, he means the 20 or so Israeli hostages. He doesn't mean the 12,000 or so Palestinian hostages. They are non-people, or even worse, they are subhuman people. So he wasn't referring to them. But if they don't release these hostages, Israel will take the most severe action that is known to man. And he added, I know what I would do. Well, we also know what you would do, Donald. We also know that mass murder is definitely in your golf bag. It's one of the clubs that you are more than ready to use. But the reality is that the president that was elected on a peace ticket, the president who was going to be the peace president, the president who was going to bring about a ceasefire in Gaza, the president that was going to end the Ukraine war in 24 hours, 48 hours, 1 week before he even took office, is rather actually involved in more wars than Joe Biden. In fact, in 6 months, Donald Trump has launched more bombing on more countries than Joe Biden did in the entire 4 years of his unlamented presidency. This is not a peace president, this is a war president. If the Nobel Committee give a Nobel War Prize, he is a runaway favorite to win it. He's at war against Iran, he's at war against Yemen, he's at war against the Palestinian people, he's at war against the Russian people, and he's threatening war against the Chinese people. Or rather, his colonial clerk, his little satrap, the British Defence Minister, is threatening war for him. I've said to you before that a hallmark of Mussolini was that he went around the world threatening people with Germany's army. That's exactly what John Healey is doing today. Because Britain, a country that is virtually bankrupt, in fact, going bankrupt fast as we speak, literally bankrupt, unable to meet the interest payment on its colossal debt, with the IMF waiting in the wings to knock on an open door, I'm pretty sure, of yet another British Labour government. Britain is a bankrupt country with no steel industry, with no coal industry, with no shipbuilding industry, with a minuscule military-industrial complex and an even more minuscule armed forces, army, navy and air force, all comfortably fitting in the stadium of Aston Villa, a mid-table, mid-size football stadium in the English Premiership. So John Healey can't really mean that he's going to fight China. Even adding Australia to the mix, I'm not sure the Australian people were consulted before this announcement, but Healey said that Australia and Britain will fight China in the event of war erupting over Taiwan. Now, you at a push could persuade me that the side of a line Kupiansk lies on in Ukraine was my business. You could, at a push, even though it's been in 4 different countries in 100 years, you could at least persuade me to listen to the argument that after Kupiansk, other parts of Europe will be imperiled. But what the actual F have we got to do with Taiwan? Taiwan, Taipei, where is it? What is it? Do you eat it? Do you lick it? Do you drive it? Taipei, your son may die in defense of Taipei. What madness is this? A Labour government, a British government that is about to abolish the old age pension as it has been known for a century because we can't afford to pay it. You're going to get a quarter of it when you're 67, and you're going to get the balance when you're 72 because we can't afford to pay it. We couldn't afford the cold weather payments for our old age pensioners during last year's bitter winter. We don't have the money. What madness is this? A country that is on its knees whilst handing over billions of pounds to the thief of Kiev, spending millions of pounds, flying reconnaissance missions for a genocide in Gaza, is going to go to war with China, the People's Liberation Army, the most gigantic army the world has ever known, the People's Liberation Navy, the biggest navy the world has ever known. 1.5 billion Chinese. Where do you think you are? Up the Yangtze? Do you know what happened? Healy, the last time Britain sailed a warship up the Yangtze, the Chinese sunk it in 1949. And China is, by a scale unfathomable, more powerful, more wealthy, more numerous in 2025. And you little runt, are using our country's name to threaten China with war. What kind of madness is this? Who was consulted on this? Did Parliament agree to this? I know that they would, but the contempt shown for British democracy is such that even a rubber stamp Parliament is not asked to endorse this kind of madness. This little runt who's never heard a shot fired in anger in his miserable puff is threatening war with China on your behalf, at your expense, and with the blood of your sons and your daughters. I'm beside myself with rage at this lunatic government that we have got. The most unpopular government that has ever been in British history. They're up to their necks in the genocide in Gaza. They're up to their necks in the bloodshed in Ukraine. And now we're setting sail for yet another war. Well, up with it, I will not put, as I said, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to put up with it. So let me tell you, John, it will be over my dead body that Britain will go to war with China. Let me tell you, John, if it's your plan, as it must be, to conscript Britain's young people to fight these ever-growing wars that you continue to threaten people with, then we will do everything. We will throw everything, including our bodies, including our lives, to stop you from doing it. Donald Trump, on his perambulations around the Turnberry golf course, met with vonderleyen. You remember her, the WEF chieftain, the Boudica of the WEF, the European Union, that organization that Trump used to excoriate, that Trump threatened and bludgeoned and browbeat. You remember them? You remember how Trump used to talk about the tyranny of the European Union under present management? Well, today, Donald Trump told Mrs. von der Leyen that she's doing a terrific job. She's doing a terrific job for Europe. Mrs. von der Leyen, daughter of a Nazi officer, Mrs. von der Leyen, who acts as if she was the president of Europe. We don't officially have a president of Europe, but who needs to make it official? As we warned in 1975, during the referendum campaign of that year, what is presented to you today, we said, as purely an economic union, then in 75, not even a union, an economic community, the EEC, that which is presented to you as a purely economic community, will ineluctably become a European superstate with a European president, a European foreign minister, a European defense minister. The only problem is none of them are elected by the people of Europe. None of them can be removed by the people of Europe. All of them act in your name when you never picked them and you cannot remove them, which is a way of saying that we were right about Brexit. We were right in 1975 when we had the first opportunity to withdraw from the EEC. And I call on all the free people of Europe to kick this von der Leyen that Trump seems now quite enamored of. Kick her to the curb, because that's where these people deserve to be. Donald Trump, on his perambulations today, threatened Iran. He threatened the people of Gaza. He threatened the people of Russia. He threatened to double down on the conflict in Ukraine. He's a war president. The man with the bone spurs that kept him out of Vietnam. The man who dodged the draft in Vietnam when so many other Americans were forced to die face down in a Vietnamese rice paddy. That man with the bone spurs, that has not kept him from a lifetime of disco dancing, from a lifetime of fornication with very young girls, indeed, from a lifetime of hitting stupid golf balls with a piece of wood on the end of a piece of metal. That man, that war leader, Donald Trump, he's going to take the war. He's going to lead us all into destruction. We are on the eve of destruction. Not a lot of people know that. Not a lot of people can see the wood. They see only the trees, if even that. If they're not distracted, diverted by one piffling little piece of circus or another, they never see the woods. Here's the woods. The American empire is dying. It is being supplanted in real time, in front of our eyes if we open them, by the new power of Eurasia, centered around the Eurasian landmass, the two most significant players in which are Russia and China, and of those, China by far and away the most significant, the most powerful, the most preeminent. In order to avoid going into that good night, there are people, and they're in very powerful positions indeed, in Washington, in London in particular, who are ready to blow up the world, to destroy everybody and everything in it, rather than lose their imperial majesty. All empires rise and all empires fall. The smart empire, as it's falling, looks out for the rising powers and gets alongside them, offering its goods and services and the benefit of its experience. But we're not led by wise or by brave or by moral men at all. Lastly, we asked in the poll today, should the Pope visit Gaza? I say this with all respect to you, Your Eminence. You already should be there. The situation in Gaza has slipped beyond calamity, beyond catastrophe. The situation in Gaza is that 1 million people, at least, are now in stage 5 famine, meaning that they cannot be cured, they cannot be saved. Even if their lives are saved, their organs will fail. 1 million Palestinians are in stage 5 cancer, stage 5 starvation. Their insides are eating themselves. Their organs are being eaten by their own bodies in order to find sustenance. This level of catastrophe has never in human history been seen before. It has occurred before. It occurred in the Holocaust of the 1930s and 40s, but it was not seen before. The people of the world are watching this Holocaust of hundreds of thousands of people dead, 400,000 people dead already, with another 1 million of them in stage 5 famine. Holy Father, if that won't take you to the gates of the Holy Land, I'm not sure you're quite the man to lead us. It's the mother of all talk shows. Stay tuned.
A new dawn has broken, has it not?
He had that Clinton thing. His eyes were round and big and smiley, and he was very charming.
He became this incredible pop idol kind of prime minister.
I think most people who have dealt with me think I'm a pretty straight sort of guy, and I am.
New Labour was backed by the most powerful media interests because they realised he was representing them.
He was caught red-handed trading policy in return for hard cash from a businessman.
America has no truer friend than Great Britain.
Both Bush as well as Tony Blair are now wanting to plunge the world into a Holocaust.
JP Morgan paid him off for the Iraq war. The man is a war criminal.
Is Tony Blair a war criminal? In my opinion, yes.
Most definitely.
The pursuit of money has become the dominant theme in your life.
All these relationships are, in most people's estimation, corrupt relationships.
No previous Labour Prime Minister has behaved in this shameful, money-grubbing way.
How do you sleep at night? You know, it's that. It's as a person.
We are very proud of that film, and we are very proud of Killing Kelly, which is going great guns free now on my YouTube channel. If you haven't watched it yet, you really must. And we're sure that we and you are going to be proud of the third film in that trilogy, the Killing trilogy, Killing Gaza. We, Gayatri and I, are about to begin making it. If you want to be involved in it, if you want to help us fund it, then stand by on Wednesday for further details. Should the Pope visit Gaza? That's our poll. Wow, 30,000 people have voted already, and I'm only just announcing it. Should the Pope visit Gaza? You can vote rather, on my Telegram channel, t.me/George Galloway, on my X, my Twitter, on the YouTube community poll, or on the YouTube stream. If you want to call the show, it's toll-free in the US and Canada, +1-844 944 3344. It's free of charge in Britain and Ireland, 08081 965522. And the worldwide number is 0044 203 966 2625. Well, the biggest guest, or two guests, that we have ever had on MOATS are both American military men. One is Scott Ritter, but the biggest one of all is Colonel Douglas Macgregor, a retired US Army colonel, an author, and a former Pentagon advisor. And if only he was in the Pentagon now, the world might not be trembling on the brink of new and more catastrophic conflicts. But we are, and we are lucky to be guided by the wisdom of Colonel Douglas Macgregor, who joins me now. Colonel Macgregor, thanks for coming back on the show. We always look forward to your contributions very much. Let's start, if we may, with the newest outbreak, which Trump claimed he brokered a ceasefire from the seventh hole at Turnberry, which turns out to be yet another falsehood. There is no ceasefire. The war is raging between Thailand and Cambodia. Can you help us? What's that all about?
I think the truth, as far as I can tell, is that both nations, the Thais and the Cambodians, have good relations with China. There has been an attempt to somehow or another implicate China in the dispute. That's simply untrue. There is evidence that we have aggravated the situation. Now, why is beyond me. I have no idea why we would think there is anything of strategic benefit to the United States and the American people to aggravate the situation. But I'm told the CIA has been very active, and this has obviously harmed any attempt to put an end to this. It's a border dispute, and it should end on terms that both sides can live with, and we should have nothing to do with it.
Is it just a kind of computer game that they're playing, sowing as much discord in the world, around the world, in various and very far-flung theaters, in order that Trump can claim that he's solving them? Is it as banal as that, or is there something more profound going on? I mean, in one impromptu, they're always impromptu, press conference today, Donald Trump threatened Iran, Yemen, Palestine, Gaza, and Russia, and implicitly China, as all in a day's work. What is driving all this, Colonel?
This is a very important question. It's one that I've been wrestling with for some time. I think we have to understand something. As much as everyone wants to impute leadership and authority to President Trump, I think he's really the creature of the top 1%. In other words, you've got to look at the interests of Wall Street, as well as the City of London banks, who are joined at the hip with Wall Street. You have to understand that the CIA, the Mossad, and MI6 are all closely integrated. You have to understand that there are other elites that may not be part of the banking elite, but are nevertheless interested in subversion and destruction. And they're advocates for perpetual conflict on the assumption that we benefit from it. You can't look past the truth that we have failed miserably in Ukraine. That's abundantly clear. There is no winning anything in Ukraine now. Russia has come out on top. Russia will end this conflict on its own terms. Governments in Europe are going to change. You've seen that start where you are. I think it's going to happen across much of Europe. The globalist elites, if you want to call them that are part of this top 1%, are losing badly in that arena. So what do? You turn to the other area where there are enormous oil and gas resources as a means of compensating yourself for the loss you've taken in Ukraine. Remember, the idea behind Ukraine was let's dethrone Putin. Let's regime change Russia. Then we can rape it, strip it of its resources, divide it into smaller parts. That's now the plan for Iran. So I think that Trump, who just a few months ago actually spoke very rationally about what was in America's interest and frankly in the interest of the West, is now simply saying what the powerful billionaire class of donors want him to say and do. And they want war in the Middle East. They want this to continue. They want to destroy Iran. And if Russia sticks its nose into it, which is inevitable because the Russians are not going to tolerate the destruction of Iran, they're not going to tolerate the subversion in Azerbaijan, then we will find ourselves confronting Russia and Iran, and behind them, of course, China. Because there's something else, and I think you implied this in some of your earlier remarks. On the one side, the Western finance system is debt-based. In other words, that's how we finance ourselves, that's how we grow. Foreign investment comes in. Well, George, foreign investment is not coming into us anymore. Nobody wants our treasuries. As Nassim Taleb says, the dollar is no longer the reserve currency. Gold is. So I think that's part of the problem. Secondly, that old system that we have used, we in the United States, weaponized it to bully others through the SWIFT system, through the IMF, through the World Bank. All of these institutions from Bretton Woods forward were designed for us to bully others into doing what we wanted them to do. Nobody wants our debt. They want to de-dollarize because every time they do business in dollars, they lose. We pass our debt on to them. And the new system that is being set up by BRICS is resource-based. It's totally different. And what we're beginning to see is in many countries around the world, particularly in places like Africa, places like Senegal, for instance, that has gold mines, they're basically concluding we'll never get out from under the debt burden that we have. So we'll just nationalize it. And the Chinese and the Russians and the Iranians and the Indians, everybody said, fine, do it. Join us and get out from underneath this oppressive system. So Trump is now lashing out at the insistence of the billionaires that funded him and brought him into office and everyone that opposes him. Now, that's a losing proposition, George. We have no chance of success at all. It's a dead end. But he's somebody who still thinks we're living in 1991. And his frame of reference is the late 1950s, early 1960s. So he dismisses out of hand countries like Iran or India or Pakistan or Zaire or any number of places in the world as irrelevant, as though they all have to do what we say, because if they don't, we'll punish them with tariffs. This is backfiring badly on us. And we're headed to a serious financial crisis in the United States and the West.
He even disrespects a country like France. I mean, look how he insulted Macron in the week when Macron said he was going to take this performative step of recognizing a Palestinian state. Trump talked about him as if he was a piece of scruff that had turned up at his door. He said he's of no weight. France is of no weight, even though it's a member of the Permanent Five, even though it gifted you the Statue of Liberty, it played a role in the liberation of your country. France is dismissed as if it is nothing by your president. Now, speaking of France, I saw some writing of yours, which struck me as very apposite, comparing the Western Empire at this moment with the atmosphere of Versailles just before the tumbrils, just before Madame Guillotine. And it struck a real chord with me, Colonel. Do expand on it for the audience, please.
Well, you know, George, the thing that we have figured out in the United States is that our ballot box is broken. Everything that Trump is doing are things that Biden would have done or did do. In fact, one can argue that he's extended the Biden policies and made them worse, when in fact he was elected on the assumption that he would put an end to those policies and extricate us, that he would shed unnecessary overseas commitments, that he would reduce spending in order to cope with this enormous national sovereign debt. What's he done? He's done the opposite. What has Congress done? The same thing, the opposite. The uniparty is now in the hands of these multi-billionaires that decide policy. And right now, policy says we've got to go to war with people. We have to defeat them and bring them back in line. It's not possible. Militarily, we can't do it. We're already overstretched and overwhelmed. We're broke financially. We're not going to scare anybody or threaten anybody into investing in our country by buying treasuries. It's not going to happen. So the American people do not understand the intricacies of the financial system, but they figured out it doesn't matter who you vote for. You get the same kind of fool and maniac. People say often, well, it doesn't matter who you vote for, you get John McCain. Well, John McCain was a hell of a lot more rational than what we're seeing right now. So I hate to say that about John McCain because I met him and knew him. He was a very nice person, and I didn't agree with everything he did, but he was rational. The point is that this is not rational anymore. And he doesn't seem to care because I don't think he understands the true state of affairs. He does not understand that we do not have limitless military power. He does not understand that the world desperately needs us. It doesn't. Our market is not the only game in town. China is the principal market. It's going to be the principal market for a very long time. And everybody forgets that for 2,000 years, China, for the most part, was the richest country in the world. China is simply regaining the position that it once had. You can go to the Shanghai Gold Exchange. You can go to their SIPS system instead of the SWIFT system. You don't need us anymore. And people more and more are doing business in their own currency. So the bottom line is his gut instinct, which tells him the way to win an argument is to bully your opponent, is wrong. But he doesn't get it.
No, and even when he's not bullying, when he's flattering, like he was implausibly flattering Mrs. Vonderleyen today, I mean, I don't know if you are as big a fan as I am of the Fine Young Cannibals. They were a very hip group some decades ago in Britain. And one of their great songs was, I'm not the man I used to be. I'm not the man I used to be. You're not the man you used to be. And Donald Trump is showing me daily now that he's not the man he used to be even 10 years ago, maybe even less time ago than that. I see a physical and mental decline in Donald Trump. And that means the second US president in a row doesn't have all their marbles, doesn't have all their spoons in the hamper. And I'm wondering if this is at all dawning on the American public.
Oh, I think it has. And that's why I say Americans are increasingly convinced that the ballot box does not work. Now, that's very dangerous, George, if you stop and think about that for a minute. I mean, those of us who are serious about our American citizenship, those of us who have served our country, I mean, there are millions of us, and to finally conclude that voting is an utterly pointless affair means that our republic, for all intents and purposes, is a facade, a fraud. That's a very dangerous place to be. That is more and more widely accepted inside the United States. This bodes ill, especially as you go into a financial crisis and stop and consider what happens if we're stupid enough stupid enough, and I mean stupid, to provoke a wider war with Russia and China as well as Iran. That makes no sense at all. We're not prepared for that. We don't have the missile stocks. We don't have the munitions factories. We don't have the production base. And yet I hear the popular propaganda that comes out of the administration is China, that's the real enemy. They harmed us. We lost our production base to China. Well, China didn't rob us of our manufacturing base. That was the CEO class and their shareholders. They shipped it overseas. They were the ones that destroyed America's middle class. But that plays well. I don't know how much longer it will play well, but that's the sort of thing people are resorting to try and hold things together. I don't think it'll work. I'm beginning to wonder if this Epstein thing is probably going to bring President Trump down. And the reason I say that is that we are discovering something that they discovered in France in the 1780s, that this aristocratic class, in our case, the top 1%, that's really ruling the country, is unworthy of that role. They are degenerate. They are decayed. They have no business governing us. And they do so exclusively because they control the financial system. These are not Rockefellers who built oil industries. These are not people that built plate glass industries or automobiles. Those people are gone. The only one that can arguably say that he's built anything lately is probably Musk. But the rest of it, forget it. These people are financial capitalists. They made billions through financializing the system. Transaction fee after transaction fee after transaction fee. But what does that produce for the American people? Nothing. It impoverishes us. It destroys our jobs. So that's where we are. And I think that's where the French were in 1789. They suddenly became disgusted. The one person that they believed in almost to the bitter end was the king. And it became impossible to believe him any longer. And ultimately that brought everything down. Well, a lot of people have believed in Trump. They thought he was different. And you know what they're discovering, George? He's not. He's exactly like the people we voted against.
Wow. Colonel Douglas Macgregor, as always, a real honor to interview you. Thanks for joining us on the mother of all talk shows. That interview will last long and travel far. Should the Pope visit Gaza? Yes or no? You can vote on my Telegram, t.me/George Galloway, on my X, on the YouTube community poll, or on the YouTube stream. If you are watching on the YouTube stream, please ensure that you have subscribed to my channel and give the program the thumbs up and let all of your friends know that we are broadcasting the very best of guests and the very best of calls coming up next. Stay tuned. I'll be right back. There's a legend on the line in Oklahoma. It's May on Trump. Welcome back, May.
Trump is using a magic 8-ball to make his decision. He apparently has completely lost whatever mind he had to begin with. This is just ridiculous. Does he really think anyone's going to believe that? I'm here to say, and I'm here to join you and everybody else, the emperor has no clothes on. He's as naked as they come. And unfortunately, I'm pretty sure he got naked with some young people. And that is why he so desperately is trying to kill this whole Epstein thing. And he's just making it worse.
I'm wondering when Donald Trump knew that he was implicated in these Epstein files and what it was that he knew. That's the big question, because he wouldn't have been banging the Epstein drum all this time and then suddenly to pull the rug. That tells me that it was a late decision, that someone came late to Trump to say, you know, you really don't want to be doing that.
You are listening to the mother of all talk shows with George Galloway.
Let's go straight to California. Who wouldn't? Where Will wants to talk about Epstein. Go ahead, Will.
George, good to talk to you. Thanks for taking my call. And that Macgregor interview was great. We finally have an American that gives an honest assessment of what's going on. And like I like to say, MAGA is no longer America first. With major promises unfulfilled by... Pardon me?
No, you're right. Absolutely. Go on.
With major promises unfulfilled by this administration and the lack of transparency, it's a good thing MAGA's finally demanding accountability. Trump's insulting behavior toward his base and bad excuses are cause for concern as the gaslighting is just off the charts, George. The ultimate goal all along was to get Deputy U.S. Attorney Todd Blanche sent down there to meet with Maxwell in prison, as he was recently one of Trump's personal lawyers and is friends with Ghislaine's lawyer as well. And coupled with Maxwell's desperation and lack of credibility, she could actually just deny Trump's involvement while simultaneously incriminating some of his adversaries. What do you think?
I think that's exactly what's going on. The Deputy Attorney General, formerly Donald Trump's personal lawyer, met Ghislaine Maxwell, the convicted felon, the convicted pedophile, child sex trafficker. He met her not once but twice. This is being treated as something fairly normal, as if in any normal country, the second top law officer in the state goes to a penitentiary to effectively negotiate with a convicted felon, to coach that convicted felon into giving testimony that will implicate the right people and exculpate the right people too. And the unspoken but obvious inducement is a pardon, a presidential pardon, which Trump said this week he had the authority to give. He hadn't thought about it yet, he said. And there was a band playing, believe it if you like, in the background. I haven't thought about it, he said, but I do have the power to do it. Well, go tell that to the Marines. What is clearly going on here is that the Epstein files will turn out to be exactly what Ghislaine Maxwell is told they need to be. And the roll call of Trump's enemies, who were also Epstein's friends, is obvious. I could chalk it on a blackboard for you right now. And there will be some significant people entirely absent from the rolls, from the flight protocols, from the CCTV and the video. Will, great call. Thanks for that, Will, in California on Epstein. You can also communicate with the show via comments on YouTube. There's a QR code, I think, on the screen now. If you just scan it, you can, if you're watching on the YouTube stream, you can send me comments, as Damascus has, with a $5 donation. Thank you, Damascus. The US is broken because its democracy is dead, replaced by corporate rule, endless war, and a government that serves power, not the people. And Abu Swaleh Mosafir says, and he is at trade war with the world, with his weaponized tariffs. Trump is evil personified, just as Netanyahu, Starmer, MOATS, and Macron. That is undoubtedly the case. Let's see, we've got in the north of Wales, we've got Charlie on Starmer and Lammy. Two of my favourite people, Chaz. What do you want to say about them?
Not my favourite people either, spineless but and gutless. But George, I just wanted to thank you and your team for all that you're doing. I found your monologue last Sunday particularly powerful, and I don't mind admitting it had me in tears, like millions of others, through sheer exasperation and anger. Some of the pictures we see coming out of Gaza have surpassed what we've, the newsreel footage we see of Belsen and the Warsaw ghettos. It cuts to the quick. In terms of Lammy and that, I can't even say his name without my skin just turning cold and clammy. He on multiple media platforms, he's lied to the British public about our non-complicity and helping Israel in this genocide. That's going to come to haunt him, and I want a day of reckoning for these genocidal maniacs, because there are C5 super galaxies passing through Akrotiri every single week, American ones. We also used, Akrotiri was used for refueling the bombers that went to bomb Iran recently, and the spy plane flights. I won't go into how I know all this, but I am ex-military myself. But the intel goes straight to the Americans, who in turn hand it straight on to the Israelis. So trying to circumvent that by saying we're not complicit because we've handed all the intel to the Americans just doesn't wash. There is a day of judgment coming for these people, and I just want to see it before the year's out. Unfortunately, it won't be of any comfort to the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who've lost their lives, innocent civilians who've lost their lives. But it is coming. And my second point, George, is I hark back to the 1990s, Operation Haven, which was seen as a benchmark for saving the northern Iraqi Kurds from extermination. I mean, the UK and Pakistan, Belgium, French Foreign Legion, within days they threw up a no-fly zones, flooded the place with humanitarian aid. There were hospital ships off in the Gulf and into the Mediterranean Sea, and it's seen by the Kurds still as their saving operation. Why? And you've adumbrated it on many, many occasions. Why on earth, years ago, did we not do the same? Why? There is no political will to set up a safe haven for these poor souls in Gaza, and the silence is what makes me so angry, and like millions of others of your listeners, makes me weep on a daily basis. And
well,
I want to ask
you and me both. Go on, Charlie.
I just want to ask you. We don't need The Hague. We need a new set of Nuremberg trials. We need the similar thing that happened in 1940s Germany. We need all these people paraded, publicly shamed, and convicted. That is it. But I cannot see the political will.
That's a very... No, there is not. That's a very powerful and indeed beautiful call and expertly delivered, Charlie, and we're grateful to you for it. It covered a lot of areas, but if I could narrow down to two of them. They did that in the north of Iraq because Saddam Hussein was their enemy. They won't do it in Gaza because Netanyahu is their friend. In fact, he's more than their friend. He is a part of them. I have sought to theorize of late. You, as a regular viewer, will know this. But my theory is that Israel is a part of the United States of America. It is, in fact, the 51st state of the USA. It does nothing that the US does not want it to do. It must do what the US decides. Therefore, everything that it does is with US approval, either with the government's open, overt approval, or with the approval of sufficiently powerful organs of the state and estates of the society, the fourth estate, the media, and so on. It acts in the interests of the United States empire. And therefore, to ask why the empire does not deal with Netanyahu is to ask someone why they don't deal with what their right hand is doing, what their right foot is doing. They are one and the same. The CIA and the Mossad are the same thing. The IDF and the Pentagon are the same thing. The President of the USA and the Prime Minister of Israel are the same thing. And that's why there will be no safe haven. What we've had over the last few days, and it's quite hard to stomach for me, and I infer from you that you feel the same, is a carefully calibrated wave of fake concern for the sheer horror of the Belsen, the Birkenau, the Auschwitz pictures that we have been seeing. They know that our people see it. They know that these pictures are so horrific. They even conjured forth Bob Geldof from his grave like a scarecrow, appearing once again in our midst and talking about saving the fucking kids. That's how bad things are. And so a carefully modulated, calculated wave of fake concern has been got up. Otherwise, how else can you explain all of the British newspapers on a single day singing an entirely different tune to that which they had been singing for the previous almost 2 years? You can't explain it other than that, metaphorically speaking, I hope, well, I don't hope, I hope it's literally speaking, but metaphorically speaking, a memo went out from the British ruling elite that there had to be some evasive action taken. There had to be some performative action taken. Like Macron's performative promise to, in the future, declare recognition of a Palestinian state. It's performative nonsense, of course, but it's a step in the right direction. But it's performative nonsense because declaring your recognition of a state does not a state create. A state has to have territory, has to have contiguous territory, has to have sovereignty. There is no territory, no contiguity, no sovereignty. And so it's merely a virtue signal. I'm all in favor of virtue signals as long as everyone is clear that that is all they are. Even that virtue signal Starmer is unable to make because right at this moment he is up the arse of Donald Trump, or maybe it's the other way around. They're together now, right now, in Scotland. We'll be talking to Kevin McKenna about that in just a few minutes. Starmer can't make even Macron's decorative, performative gesture. But none of them intend to create a safe haven for the 2 million remaining Palestinians in Gaza. In fact, if 400,000 have been killed, as the latest Israeli academic surveys suggest, then it's now 1.9 million people in Gaza and counting down. Charlie, thanks for that call. A drum roll now for this week's top donors on the MOATS.tv website. I can't tell you how important these donations are. I just wrote to a particularly generous donor in Canada just an hour or so ago. Believe me, without these donations, we can't go on. We need your help. MOATS.tv. And the top donors this week were Peter Bird, Lysander Hardy, Pierce, Mel Fee, Darren Ireland, and Neil Baird. Is it Mel Fee or Phil? F-I-L, I think it is Mel, forgive me. Darren Ireland and Neil Baird. Thank you very much indeed for your generosity, and thank you in advance for those who are going to give even £1, €1, or $1. Let me go to the Netherlands, where Jeanette wants to talk. Jeanette, welcome to the show.
Mediterranean Sea, and it's seen by the Kurds still as their saving operation.
Jeanette, you need to turn your speaker off.
On Earth.
Go ahead, my dear.
Okay. Not do the same. Why there is no political will to set up a safe haven for these poor...
Let's come back to Jeanette in the Netherlands. I very much want to speak with her. Now, did you know yet that there's a MOATS podcast? A lot of people surprisingly don't. You can download it every week by scanning the QR code on your screen now or on the aforementioned MOATS.tv website. This week, we're in the top 5 in Romania and the top 40 in Italy, Spain, Portugal, Hong Kong, and New Zealand. And once you've listened, please don't forget to review it and rate it. It helps the podcast grow. Let's take a quick break because coming up fast, right down the fairway, blazing a trail down the fairway at Donald Trump's Turnberry golf course is the award-winning Scottish journalist and political commentator, Celtic man, and all-round good egg, Kevin McKenna, coming up right after this. Stay tuned.
What a great show this is! I listened to it, I thought, wow, what a great show. I've called into your show today, George, because I'm a great caller. Probably the greatest caller you've ever had. I really am. The only way your show could be better is if it had more of me, Donald J. Trump, in it. You keep talking about me, George. You do. I've heard it, I have. So many of the American people, the best people, listen to your show. And I've heard them crying about me. I have, and I listen and I go, ooh, America, don't cry. Don't cry. You need to be careful what you say about me, George. You don't want me to put a tariff on your show like I did with China. And then you'll come running for my help, just like little Zelensky. You know, I know you will. I know these things. Make the mother of all talk shows great again. That's why we're here. That's what we're gonna do, George. We're gonna boost your ratings. Donald is gonna boost them bigly. I'm giving your show the Trump bump. You're welcome, George. Thank me. And remember, nobody talks like me. Nobody calls like me. And absolutely nobody ends a phone call like me. I'm hanging up now. Not because I finished, but because I won.
You are listening to the mother of all talk shows with George Galloway.
Totally brilliant that Donald Trump's skit. The problem with Donald Trump's current behavior is it's putting satire out of business. It's difficult to satirize a man like Donald Trump. Kevin McKenna is sometimes called the last journalist standing in the land. Award-winning Scottish journalist, Celtic man, and all-round good friend of ours. Kevin McKenna joins us now from Scotland, where, Kevin, you were earlier at Turnberry. Now, I'm of the view that golf is a good walk spoiled, and when it's an orange walk, as this one was, it's particularly hard to watch. So I'm glad you watched it all so that we didn't have to. Give us a picture of what it was like, please.
George, how are you? Good to see you.
And you, my friend.
So I was at Turnberry yesterday because the newspaper that I work for, the Herald in Glasgow, wanted, and you'll know this terminology, they wanted a sort of colour piece on Donald Trump playing at his multi-million-pound golf resort on the Ayrshire coast, and they wanted me to speak to some local people to get their reaction to the American president in their presence. And it was a bizarre start to the day because I was perched on a little hillock overlooking the third green, fourth fairway. And the photographers and me were waiting for maybe an hour and a half for something to happen. And then all of a sudden, there was an entourage There was about, I would say, 30 to 40 motor vehicles, including about 20 electric golf buggies. And these were led by Donald Trump and his playing partners, including, I think, his son, Eric Trump. And then they just buzzed around them for the next 3 holes. Like, you would see him putting out or just approaching the green, and there would have been about 20 of these buggies. God knows who was in them. I'm imagining various chiefs of staff and special advisors. And I had a giggle to myself because I was imagining them all trying to jostle for position and status and wanting to get close to him so that they could shout, "Way to go, Mr. President," or something like that. And before that, we'd been treated to the site, another bizarre sight of about 40 military personnel and policemen sweeping every inch of the fairway as though it were a minefield, and then out on the Firth of Clyde, and this is a beautiful part of Scotland. It's a beautiful coastline. There were a couple of well, I would say motor launches, but probably gunboats. And you know what journalists are like when they get together, and photographers are even worse. The black humour is thick, and of course there was a lot of talk of grassy knolls, and I'm looking nervously around. I'm looking nervously around at this gunboat, and I'm looking at the two sharpshooters that I could actually see. There's bound to be a dozen more that I couldn't see, and I'm thinking they can pick up every conversation up and down the Clyde coast, probably up and down the Irish coast, and there's some bampot here talking about fucking grassy knolls. Right?
There's no grassy knoll like Turnberry, of course. Maybe they were shouting, "Let's go, Brandon," or the Trumpian equivalent. How were the local people taking it all, Kevin?
So, George, they were... see, there's a massive disconnect in the left in Scotland at the moment between the so-called kind of old cultural left, which you and I would probably understand. It's not that difficult, advocating for trade union rights, workers' rights, fair employment, good pay, better housing, equality of health, equality in education, all these things that have made our lives, our parents' lives better, all of which were secured by the advocacy and the campaigning of left-wing politicians, the old Labour Party, as was now sadly no longer. And in these communities in North Ayrshire, you have to understand that several of them, have been left twisting in the wind by the buffeting of the economic free markets. They've been left behind. If you look 30 miles down that coast, you'll come to a port called Stranraer. Now, Stranraer was a bustling town in Galloway. It was busy with ferries coming in and out. The economy was good. It was very working class. And then suddenly the ferry companies decided they were moving their operations 6 miles up the coast. And in the 12 years since, Stranraer has been left behind. It's become something of a ghost town. And some of these communities, including the one that I was at yesterday, was a little village called Maidens. And I was speaking to a bunch of men and women who were members of the local bowling club, who, luckily for me, were competing in the over 55s Scottish Open Bowling Championship. So they were also happy to talk to me. And for them, the debate over Trump, and they're very well informed, as many people in the Scottish working class are. They were all over culture, history, economics, and they were they were conscious of the fact that that there were there were demonstrations in Aberdeen and Edinburgh against Trump's visit, and they were saying, you know, they were no Trump apologists, but they said this guy has bought a failing golf course, put millions into it, and has secured employment for dozens of local people. He uses local contractors. It has given a little bit of a jag to the local economy. And they were saying people have to factor in these when it comes to Trump, or when it comes to a guy who is trying to, or who owns 2 world-class golf courses in Scotland. On the other hand, it's £1,000 to play a single round at Trump Turnberry, £1,000. So these local people would never ever be able to play around at the hotel that overlooks their little village. And the reason why I say there's a disconnect is that quite a lot of the protesters, you know, the people I was speaking to in Ayrshire were saying, well, they don't have real life experience. You know, they're kind of middle class, well shod. Their left wing socialism is performative. It's based around things like trans rights and climatism, and you know, none of them would be able to find a working class community with a sat nav, let alone actually get there. So there's that kind of disconnect. But as you were saying earlier, you know, Trump, when people point these out, they also feel they have to apologise for Trump, because they know you have to understand here, George, we have all had to suspend belief, not only when Trump became president first time around, but the fact that America went and did it again. And when you're talking about the psycho aspects of his presidency and the acolytes that he surrounds himself with, you do have to suspend belief that this guy is running the biggest economy, the most powerful nation on earth, and he's utterly, utterly unpredictable. How can you have someone like that who has got the welfare, who's got the safety, the security of a massive part of the world? And then you look again at the left and think, well, we have to take responsibility for this, because as has happened in the UK and in Scotland, working class people, blue collar people, educated, well informed, but people who've been kept out of the professions or who haven't gone to university, you know, they have been reviled and they've been dismissed by the liberal social cultural elites who operate on the left in Scotland, in the UK and in America. And you know what? After decades of ordinary working people that you and I have known and have grown up with, after decades of this elite, this wretched elite telling them that they're bigots, that they don't eat properly, that they drink too much, that they speak the wrong words, that they are not up with the right pronouns, they just go, well, you know what? You know, to hell with you all. And it means that you have scavengers like Reform UK, and you get scavengers like Trump, and you know, who come along, who can speak their language or appear to speak their language, appear to be in their interests, and they get into power. And it's no use. It's no use the left saying, "Oh, look, this is terrible. Let's march against them." You've got to say, well, you look at yourselves and ask yourself why so many working class people, decent people with decent values, feel compelled to vote for chancellors like this. You have to ask that. And if you're not prepared to ask that question and to look at the reasons, then you deserve everything that you get. Actually, I'll correct that. No one deserves Trump. But you can understand where I'm coming from. You've seen it. You've commented on it yourself.
It's pure poetry, what you've just said, music to my ears. It's my analysis also. It is the analysis that millions of unrepresented British people and American people, tens of millions then, feel that they were called by the left in the form of Hillary Clinton, the left presidential candidate, as a basket of deplorables. And whatever the Scottish translation, a message bag of deplorables, is how the left that were there yesterday might regard some of the people of the bowling club that you were talking to. I should say in parenthesis that I had no idea it was £1,000 because I've never played golf in my life and never will.
No,
but
me neither.
£1,000 is definitely is. There's only one game and the ball is considerably larger for me. But he runs a good golf course. He did pick up a failing golf course. Not sure whose millions he spent on it, but millions were spent on it. The hotel in which I've stayed, me and the wife stayed because I was giving a performance, a birthday party there a few years back, is exquisitely lovely. Not at all the gold, vulgar temple that you might imagine Donald Trump to own. And Scotland's economy is such that you probably can't afford to spit in the face of somebody who's generating jobs and economic activity. At the same time, as you yourself alluded to, this man's capable of declaring World War III at the seventh hole if his putt doesn't go in. This is the horrifying danger of this kind of person with his finger on the trigger, right?
Yeah, and today he is, today and over the next few days, he's meeting Keir Starmer. He was greeted by the Scottish government, John Swinney, one of the most cowardly politicians Scotland's ever had, who was condemning Donald Trump for his alleged or his performative treatment of Zelensky in the White House a few months ago, although you could do an entire programme about what that was all about and who was acting what. And then, of course, Swinney, who basically holds his finger up in the air and sees which way the wind is blowing before he makes any decisions. All of a sudden, his advisors say, Mr. Swinney, the American president's coming. And he's welcoming him with open arms and saying all the right things. But Starmer's pathetic. This guy, after a few, how long's he been in power? Seems forever. I know it's not. He's judging
only a year. Only 1 year.
He's judging the efficacy of his administration by how many percentage points, how many thousands of pounds or millions of pounds he can shave off, or he can get back in the trade negotiations. His position with America. I mean, we've talked about Tony Blair in the past, and being supine and bowing before America, but this guy Starmer has found new depths. He's not even got as high as bootlicking, and it's not a good look. It basically says to Britain, when it comes to America, we have no independence from America. You're talking about Israel being the 51st state. We're on the way to becoming the 52nd state. When a Labour Prime Minister...
We wouldn't even get statehood, Kevin. We wouldn't even get statehood. We'd be like Puerto Rico. We'd be like, we're an offshore dominion, but not worthy of statehood.
And, Starmer a UK Prime Minister at this very, very delicate stage in global geopolitics, you would expect to have a strategy. You would expect that he would come in when Trump is visiting his country and say, right, well, he's in our territory. We need to do some hard talking here, Mr. President. But you know that he won't. You know that he won't. And, you know, the fact, you know, Trump's calling this a private holiday, but it's not. There's nothing private about it at all. He's here basically to lay down the law to Starmer, to the EU, to anybody else. And we, in turn, are basically basing our relationship, rooting whatever relationship we have with the United States on dollars, whiskey, and salmon. Is pathetic. All the things that are happening in this world, all the places that we're at, where there's severe jeopardy, where millions are dying in Ukraine, in Gaza, in parts of Africa, when there are poor souls rocking up in small boats, being enslaved by bad people. And we've known about this for years, and none of our governments has been able to do anything to target the slave drivers. Instead, it's all about these people coming, taking our jobs. Where have we heard that before? All of these things are happening, and we're talking about shaving a few points from a trade deal. It tells you all that you need to know. This is about big capital. This is about the ruthlessness of the markets, all of it, as has always been our battle, our class battle. All of it can be seen through that prism. And sadly, we do not have politicians with the vision to see that. And if they do see it, they don't have the honesty to do anything about it.
Well, Kevin, we've got a war with China that John Healey declared today. To look forward to on top of all of that, Kevin McKenna, the last journalist standing. Thanks for standing here on the Mother of All Talk Shows. Let me take a quick break, and then it's your calls right up to Gayatri's social media roundup. Stay tuned. He's a schoolyard bully, Piers Morgan, and he does have a big show, but then he has a big and plush and very well appointed studio, and he has a big and very well paid staff. He has a very big budget. He's an extremely wealthy man, and the combination of all of that does give you a certain head start. We, on the other hand, are a mom and pop business. There's just me and Gayatri. And the people who told me the phones are melting are my own grandchildren who are answering the phones for nothing. This is an unpaid gig I'm doing and do twice a week. Nobody pays me one brass farthing to make this show, to present this show. I'm not sure that Piers Morgan would tell you how much he makes.
You are listening to the Mother of All Talk Shows with George Galloway.
On the line is a Rose in Texas. Sounds like the beginning of a song. On Californication, which is a song. Rose, welcome to the show.
Fan of the show, transgender fan of the show, and I wanted to briefly address your monologue from last week on Californication, because I almost entirely agree with what you said. Trans women athletes taking medals and records, directing children at nightclubs, and even going to elementary schools themselves, not to mention hormone blockers for children as well. The attack on freedom of speech, not only against conservatives, but anyone who doesn't fall in line with the agenda, rainbow flags on NATO military aircraft, which is certainly doing more to cultivate anti-queer sentiment around the world than there already is. All of that makes me sick. So because I don't believe in incest, bestiality, necrophilia, and pedophilia, I'm basically culturally right-wing by today's standards, even though less than 5 years ago, I'd still be left-wing. So in regards to you and everyone else watching who thinks of me and people like me as the villains right now, you should know that I support the most traditional Muslim, Jewish, Abrahamic believers to be as homophobic and transphobic as they want, because guess what? That's freedom of religion, which is a value we claim to have in the West. Now, my religion, I suppose, is I believe I'm a woman, but guess what? Not everyone has to convert to my religion. Otherwise, we basically have a theocracy, only this theocracy is for the ever-evolving LGBTQIA supercalifragilisticexpialidocious club. So that's all I wanted to get out of my system. Thank you.
Well, Rose, if I could put your call in a glass bottle and ship it around the world, I promise you that I would do so. Crystal clear, beautifully expressed, and I wish you every happiness in life. It is exactly what people who are transgender should be saying. And if they were, they would disappoint the liberal zealots who want to use them as a battering ram against the traditional family values of the rest of us. Beautifully expressed, Rose. I'll never forget it.
You are listening to the mother of all talk shows with George Galloway.
President Putin definitely isn't Nikita Khrushchev, who was a clown, in my opinion. Neither is he Stalin, but he's much closer to Stalin than any other Russian leader has ever been. He has a mind that calamity has hardened and turned to steel. He is extremely cautious, but cautious only for a purpose. He is cautious in the hope that the goals of the operation that he's involved the country in can be achieved. But no one should mistake that caution for weakness. I've met the man. 3 times I've met him. I've met lots of leaders. I've met leaders from all over the world, including all of the British leaders that I sat in Parliament under. Vladimir Putin is a very determined guy. He has a clear set of goals. He told you about them in 2007 in Munich. He warned you in 2007 that Russia regarded NATO encroachment in Ukraine as a red line matter for the existential survival of the Russian Federation, which it is his job to defend, and nobody should make the mistake of thinking that he will not do that job. People misunderestimated Stalin, but Stalin wasn't Stalin when he told the beast of Berlin that we will crush you in your lair. Stalin wasn't Stalin. Putin isn't Stalin. Trust me on that.
You are listening to the mother of all talk shows with George Galloway.
$33,000 people have now voted. Should the Pope visit Gaza? It is an overwhelming yes. Holy Father, I think you should hear the voices of the audience of the mother of all talk shows. Jeanette is in the Netherlands, and we've got her back on the line. Jeanette, welcome. What do you want to say?
Hello, George.
Hi.
Thank you. I just want to share your passion. I have written every day since October the 7th, 8th then, over Gaza. I want to speak to you tonight over the mothers in Gaza. You have 3 daughters. These women cannot breastfeed their babies. They have no milk because they're so weak. You have 3 daughters. Young adults in Gaza. Are you there? Hello?
Yes. Yes, I'm here. I'm powerfully affected by your words, that's all. Go ahead, please.
Young women in Gaza have no means for the menstruation. They have got nothing, absolutely no means. I think this is just so inhuman. I don't think it gets any more inhuman. And I just want to call out to these mothers. I have lost 2 children. And I just want to call out to these mothers. And I just don't know what to say, George. I think it's just awful.
Well, I think you've said powerfully more than our leaders collectively have done in the last 22 months. The heartbreaking passion with which you've spoken in that short telephone call will, I think, be remembered for a very long time. Jeanette, the catastrophe has moved from slaughter to genocide to Holocaust. Of that, there is surely no doubt in the minds of any fair-minded person. Whatever view they took about Israel before, whatever view they took about the events of October 7th, a couple of years ago, whether they think all this happened because of that, if they think it all started on October the 7th, whatever. The vast majority of all the peoples of the world are feeling exactly like you are about these poor children, about their poor mothers, their fathers, their grandparents, their siblings. The level of slaughter is off the scale. If the Israeli figures are correct, it's 400,000 dead people in a territory of 2.3 million people. That is 1/5, 1 in 5 of every person in Gaza before October the 8th is now dead. The overwhelming majority of them, women and children. The 10 scores of thousands of them born since October the 7th, or who were in nappies on October the 7th, are being collectively slaughtered. I won't say collective punishment, because that's far too mild a description. It's collective slaughter. It's an eye for 20,000 eyes. And as Mr. Gandhi said, an eye for an eye as an ideology leaves the whole world blind. Well, eyeless in Gaza is where we are now. And the powerful never even take a look. The powerless, like thee and me, we can't take our eyes off it. The video, which is now removed by Mr. Musk from X, of a little boy with his arm literally blown off at the shoulder, spurting blood and screaming in horror and terror and pain, is a vision that will never ever leave me. And it's the vision that made Gayatri and I decide that it was time for our next film, which will be called Killing Gaza. Make a note in your diaries. Coming as soon as we can get it to you. Jeanette, thank you very much. Comments on the Pope. Emmanuel Haxe Salamat. I don't care whether the Pope visits Gaza or not. He does nothing to alleviate the situation there. He's as sensitive as they come to their plight and, like all the rest, just as racist. I really don't think that's justified. I don't know how you can say it would make no impact. The vast majority of 34,000 people in this poll think he should go there. And if you can't see, Emmanuel, the political possibilities, the kinetic energy that can be generated by a papal visit to Gaza, the impact on world public opinion, the impact on 1 billion Catholics around the world, the impact on other Christians around the world, the impact on public opinion. If you can't see that, Emmanuel, I think you need to go to Specsavers. Tigers can't sing. The Pope is American first, church second. Well, that may turn out to be the case. As I said on Wednesday, he was not my choice for Pope. I don't get to choose the Pope, but I have to accept him and respect him as the Pope. And I really don't think there are grounds yet, they may come, but there are no grounds at this point in time to make that kind of sweeping statement. American first, Pope second. I really don't think that's justified. Michael Bartlett said, as regards the poll question, the Pope should visit Gaza. It might cost him his life, but it might help to galvanize the so-called Christians against Zionist Israel. Well, Jesus, of course, perished in Palestine. Patrick Cosgrove says, His Holiness the Pope Leo should not visit Gaza. It's not safe for His Holiness. Well, nothing's safe, but if you believe in the next life, why would you worry about that? Sophic 66 says the Pope and the Vatican are a huge part of the problem. They are a sovereign, powerful, secret society. It's useless to back the Pope and his nation of Israel 2.0. Again, I just don't think it's justified to say that. The last Pope, God rest his soul, was on the phone to the Holy Family Church in Gaza every single night, even on his deathbed. Do you think that mattered to the people of Gaza? I think it might. Maggie is in Hertfordshire in England on the aforementioned Bob Geldof, who turns out still to be alive, Maggie. Maggie, you there? Maggie.
Hello?
Maggie May. Yeah, Maggie, you're there.
Yeah,
go on.
I am.
The whole world's waiting. What do you want to say?
Okay. I want to talk to George.
You're talking to me and a very large audience around the world, so please keep it clean and go ahead.
Hold on. Give me a moment. I am. Yeah, I am Maggie May, by the way. I was born in
I think we'll move on, Maggie, because Maggie may have had a tipple. I don't know. MOATS, big donors tonight. Get your name on the wall of fame. All it takes is £1, $1, or €1 to support MOATS. A big shout out now to tonight's top donors who've been on to the MOATS.tv website since we came on the air. Brilliant donations, actually. Carol Myson, David Hall, Diana Saleh, Stuart Sanderson, and a massive thank you to Vern Reed, R-E-A-D, who made a significant donation at the end of the show on Wednesday. Please check out MOATS.tv website. Hadi is in Carmarthen in Wales, but wants to talk about Palestine. Well, we are the global university of the airwaves. Go ahead, Hadi.
Hello, George. Well, I'm a big fan of you and a big fan of General Douglas Macgregor as well. So thank you very much for hosting him.
Thank you.
And I wanted to tell you that concerning right now the famine, what's going on in Gaza, it's really horrific. But I would like to attract the attention to something. Well, the point, if we are going right now, some people are criticizing Egypt a lot. And I think any criticism to Egypt will be diverting pressure from Israel to Egypt. And I think this is serving Israel. Egypt has, I think, is being treated misfairly. First of all, the main Israeli objective of ethnic cleansing of the Gazans outside of Gaza, the only side which is really preventing this ethnic cleansing, I think it's President Sisi or not, he's the one who's preventing it. The second point which I would like as well to say, the one which is preventing aid to coming to Israel, to Gaza is Israel, not Egypt. Egypt cannot put aid unless by force. And if Egypt put aid by force, this means military confrontation with Israel. And the military confrontation with Israel means that simply the United States, the United Kingdom, France, Germany, Italy will come and destroy Egypt and the entire population and turn them tens of millions of people into refugees. This is not a wise thing. We cannot force Egypt to do this. So the main point, we have to focus on Israel. And this point which I wanted to distract, Israel is the one who is responsible. Some people are are criticizing Egypt about this. So what's your opinion about this?
Well, just before I tell you my opinion, can you tell us your opinion on Egypt's refusal to allow the aid ship handler to enter Egyptian waters to seek some protection, at least, from the act of piracy that was carried out overnight when Israeli commandos boarded the boat full of well-meaning and dedicated humanitarian people, many of them celebrities, one of them British, many of them American, who are now in chains and prisoners in Ashkelon jail. When they asked to be allowed to enter Egyptian waters, Egypt refused to allow them. Why did they do that?
Here it's very simple. Even this aid, which was coming from Tunisia or Algeria, it's very simple. If we come from Egypt, try to come from Egypt to Israel, and this will drag Egypt once again to a sort of military confrontation with Israel, because if they come from Egypt to Israel, Israel will just have to stop them either in the Egyptian waters or when they come to Israel waters, and then they will simply accuse Egypt, why didn't you stop them? So we have to interfere. This is the main point. Dragging Egypt into a military confrontation, this will simply drag Egypt to a military confrontation with the collective West, and the West, which destroyed Iraq 20 years ago, and Libya 10 years ago, is ready to destroy Egypt as well. And they would like it.
Well, may God forgive you, Hadi, and good luck on the Judgment Day in spinning that tale as a reason why we should not be angry with al-Sisi, with the Egyptian regime. What you have just described is an act of total paralysis due to cowardice. And Egypt was once something different to that. This is the anniversary this weekend of the 1956 stand made by a former leader of Egypt. You'll know him if not everyone watching does. Do you think President Nasser would have allowed the handler to pull into Egyptian waters? Do you think President Nasser would have kept the gates locked on 2.3 million starving Palestinians? Do you think President Nasser or the great mass of the Egyptian people this day, well over 100 million Egyptians, 7 million Israelis, And you have just on your knees issued a craven apologia for the most shameful betrayal of the Palestinian people, for whom Egypt in former times fought once so bravely. Dave is in California on the Pope. Let's hear from him. Dave, welcome to the show. What do you want to say?
How you doing, George? Oh, you're just the bomb. You're the best thing ever happened to anything in communications. Okay, here's
Thank
my
you,
thing.
brother. Thank you so much.
This new Pope that we got from the United States, they had a kind of a genetic background thing on this guy. Same one that did one. He did my family too. Same outfit. Come to find out, this guy is a mulatto. He's black. He's a white-looking black guy, just like there's a lot of them in Louisiana. His background is from, I think, Jamaica and Louisiana. And if you go to Louisiana, you know there's a whole lot of white.
He's sounding better and better. He's sounding better and better. I'm liking him more and more. Go on, Dave.
And so there's a whole lot of, and you'll find a whole lot of them in the Great Lakes area too, like Chicago and around where he's from. There's a lot of them, but his background is basically South Jamaica, I think Haiti, and all of the French colonies. That's pretty much his genetic background.
Good. Well, maybe that will increase the stock of empathy. If he's black, he cannot be comfortable in staying silent about the crimes of an apartheid state. If he's Haitian, he cannot be comfortable with colonization by European powers of native people and land. If he's a Roman Catholic, he cannot be comfortable with enduring crimes that cannot possibly pass muster on the judgment day. What are you going to say to our Lord as your reason for seeking passage into paradise? That when hundreds of thousands of people were being massacred, you did what exactly? What did you do? So on these multiple levels, Dave, you've given me good news. I don't know if that's the way you see it. Last word to you, Dave.
The way I see it, just like you said, it's great news. Blew me away.
Hallelujah.
And it came from those same people who did my background. Yeah.
God bless the Pope. Thank you very much, Dave. I've got to go on. Adam is in England, in Norbury, and wants to talk about Palestine. Adam, welcome to the show. What do you want to say?
Thank you. Good evening. What I wanted to say was, it seems to me that an obvious thing is not being observed, which is we all know that Israel was by atheists, set up by atheists. We all know Israel has nothing to do with religion, in spite of what they say. No. But it seems to me that really and truly, this is an attack on all three Abrahamic religions at the very site in the Holy Land. That's what it seems to me. You know, if people were to attack Muslims in one place, they could do Christians in one, but to attack the Holy Land, where all three are holy people, and none of those three would ever go around killing one another if they are true to God. But this really is an attack on all three religions. That's my
Absolutely. Well, it's a very good one, a powerful one, and I'm in a way tired of making it. And the fact that it does not have the resonance I believe that it should have is a measure of how godless a country we truly are. God is simply not present in the public realm in Britain. If you talk about God, if you talk about the Judgment Day, people look at you as if you're mad. Whereas for people like me, and I infer people like you, that's the purpose of being on this earth for this short time, that we are being tested. What we did, what we didn't do, which angel we listened to, the angel of good or the angel of evil. Did we follow the path of Jesus, or did we follow the path of Satan, the devil? Did we do good or did we do bad? Did we keep the commandments or did we break them? And those that we broke, did we genuinely seek atonement for them? Did we mend our ways? Did we seek forgiveness and mend our ways? And this is the essence of my existence, and I infer yours. Now, on a grand scale, when the blood is flowing through the streets of the old city of Jerusalem where Jesus' blood flowed, the Cardinal Pizzaballa was just at the anointing stone where Jesus was prepared for burial. I saw him say Mass there. I saw him kiss the stone. The green hill far away, it's not so far away, you know, is exactly where many of these crimes are taking place. Bethlehem, where Jesus was born, is in a state of permanent and total siege. And its refugee camp, Balata, is one of the most severely repressed places on the planet. Even Nazareth, from where Joseph and Mary came on their journey, on their donkey, is itself held in bondage. Do these things not matter to anybody? Well, they must matter to the Pope. And that's one of many reasons why the Pope should now put on his mitre, pick up his staff, and walk in the footsteps of the Father. Vitz is in Canada. Let's hear from Vitz. Go ahead, Vitz.
Yes, how are you doing, George? Let me start by foremost, may your ancestor and may Yahuwah bless you and your family and the next generation to come for your, not just your leadership. You lead and also you inspire. And you also inspire me and many people around the world. I would like to quote what Einstein said and give my critique. The world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who watch them without doing anything. So my critique of that is that, as Einstein stated, by doing something doesn't mean that you have to go out to protest. By doing something, which could mean that you have to share the information to expose the evil deeds and the evil doers. So for society can be awakened. By society being awakened, evil deeds and evil doers will dissipate. Once society is awakened, when society is being awakened, the evil doers will have no power. When society is awakening, perception of society is very powerful. So I just like to have a little inspiration for the people that listen to you, that you inspire everyone else, and I bless you in every form, in every way. That's only the statement I
well,
want
God
to...
bless you, Vitz. I'm very touched, overwhelmed actually by it, the eloquence and the sincerity behind it. I have many friends in Canada. As I say, I just wrote to a very generous benefactor of the mother of all talk shows in Canada an hour or so ago. I have a dear friend who's just emigrated to Canada, doctor, and I've spoken the length and breadth of your country, and I've always been impressed by, but also puzzled, how a great people, a noble people, quite significantly a God-fearing people, can be led by such evildoers as a whole succession of Canada's leaders have been. One after the other, getting worse, one after the other. So I thank you deeply, sincerely for your kind words. And one day, I hope to renew my acquaintance with the Canadian people, but I'm not sure I'd be welcome right now. Gayatri is in the studio with the social media news roundup. What's rattling, Gayatri?
Well, what a peculiar call we had earlier from Hadi, and what a contrast it was from the caller from the Netherlands. And may I remind Hadi and the rest, as you have already started, that indeed 69 years ago, on the 26th July of 1956, Colonel Gamal Abdel Nasser, our hero, he nationalized the Suez Canal, which previously was owned by Britain and France, of course. So how dare Colonel Nasser take ownership of his land and waters and resources. So this unacceptable act by Colonel Nasser was responded by a military intervention by France and Britain and Israel, which received a lot of international condemnation, especially from the US and the Soviet Union. So President Eisenhower, he was vehemently against this intervention, and he put all pressure to stop it. And this intervention indeed failed, and the British, French, and Israeli forces withdrew from Egypt. Now, this damage at the time caused onto Britain and Prime Minister Anthony Eden in particular was highlighting the decline of the British Empire. Now, at that time in 1956, the British Empire still ruled over some 47 countries, crossing across the Caribbean, Africa, Middle East, and Asia. France, on the other hand, was still colonizing about 13 countries across the world, including Burkina Faso, at the time called Upper Volta. Now, we know that until recently, the French, basically, they stuck around, and it wasn't until January 2023 when Captain Ibrahim Traoré expelled the French military forces from Burkina Faso. So that in terms of British and French Empire. Back to the subject of the Suez Canal, which happened 69 years ago this week. So this was in contrast to today, the image that Gamal Abdel Nasser gained from it, the leadership for Arab nationalism, for anti-imperialism, anti-colonialism, and sparked decolonization across the empire, was a highlight. And it's quite a contrast, isn't it, to today's picture. I mean, at the time we had American leadership, the decline of Britain, and a hero figure in the Arab world. Where do we stand today?
Well, that's such a powerful segment. I didn't know that you were working on that, and I was reacting only to Hadi's rather cringeworthy telephone call, I'm sorry to say. But there are three things missing in that picture that you've just painted. First of all, Donald Trump ain't no General Eisenhower. Eisenhower ordered, not just Israel, that was easy. He ordered Britain and France to withdraw entirely from Egyptian land. He punished Britain, France, and Israel for this secret conspiracy that they hatched. Don't forget, all of this was hatched entirely in secret. This war on Egypt was launched secretly, without any consultation with Washington, and obviously not with Moscow, which is the second thing that is missing. If there's no Eisenhower in this picture, there's no Soviet Union in this picture. In fact, the only person capable at this moment of being either the Eisenhower or the Soviet Union is China and its leader Xi Jinping, and they, for their own reasons, plainly are not yet, at least, prepared to act in that way. And the third is the one that is closest to my heart. As you say, Gamal Abdel Nasser was the greatest of all Arab leaders. Many people didn't like him. Islamist people didn't like him. Fair enough. People of a royalist or conservative hue didn't like him. But at least under Nasser, the Egyptian president was really somebody. At least under Nasser, Egypt was a real thing. Egypt, the beating heart of the Arab world, the biggest Arab country, the biggest population, and led by the biggest person that there has ever been at the head of any Arab state. That was the moment at which the Arabs could have been a contender. The Arabs could have been somebody. The Arabs could have been something, could have united themselves. And then we wouldn't have this miserable story that Hadi tried to spin us, that these poor humanitarian heroes, storm-tossed, are refused access to Egyptian waters because, as Hadi said, it would have made Israel angry. And we can't have that, can we? Sorry, Gayatri.
Can't.
Any more?
Well, let's go to the poll. Should the Pope visit Gaza? Raymond Boyko says the Pope, being the vicar of Christ, should certainly visit Gaza. He should also be accompanied by many cardinals. He should demand an audience with Netanyahu and order him to stop the genocide. After all, he is God's representative on earth, so shouldn't Israel obey him? John C. says the Pope should certainly visit Gaza to give hope to the people, but I would not put it past the IDF to shoot the Pope by accident, if you get my drift. Alan Christopher says even Sir Bob Geldof has now been voicing his opinions about Israel and starving children. So maybe the Pope and Sir Bob, the dynamic duo, to force the issue and show up the Western media and the governments by turning up a blind eye to it all. And Vob says, yes, the Pope should go to Gaza and Chinese aid ships should be sent to the coast. If our politicians want to continue to defend Israel, then make them defend attacking China and arresting the Pope. Now, I think that's a very good proposal by Vob. These are two powerful entities that have thus far only been talking the talk, but not walking the walk. Walking the talk, rather. An email then from Alan from Wigan.
Very true, yeah.
You want to say something about that?
Go on. No, I could say so much, but I don't have time. So please go on to your email.
Yes, we all get your drift. Alan from Wigan says, George, I have seen Lemmy's food and drink expenses bill over the last 12 months. 522,000, I do believe. Our foreign secretary is milking us all. Is a despicable man. George, keep doing on what you're doing. Your monologues just get better and better. And your guests and regular callers are so wonderful. We need more MOATS than twice a week. Alan from Wigan, with the fast pace of development in the news today, we could do with 2 modes, more than 2 modes a week. But I think us, the 2 of us, and our team will be a bit more busy the coming periods with the announcement of Killing Gaza that George announced in the beginning of the show. And finally, then Susan.
Yeah, exactly. And we can't. We can only just afford, as you know better than anybody else, we can only just afford a second show. In order to get a third show or more, or segment the show, which we did have ideas about, MOATS Africa, MOATS Asia, MOATS America, we would need very substantial investment, and we just don't have that. And we're about to fundraise to make our film, Killing Gaza. So for the moment, I'm afraid you'll have to make do with Gayatri and me twice a week. Last word to you, Gayatri.
Yes, final one from Susan, a Canadian but presently in Georgia. She writes, does anyone know at this point if the family actually exhumed the body of David Kelly? If so, I was thinking that might be a good move if they preserved it for a possible later and proper investigation. Well, Susan, I hope you have watched our crowdfunded movie, which is now available for free on YouTube, recently released. And yes, the body has actually been exhumed by the family. Isn't that right, George?
Exhumed and moved in the dead of night to a place unknown. And of course, the records have been locked up for the best part of 100 years. So the youngest person in your room right now will be dead before these papers will be available to the public, if indeed they ever are. When you've got to lock up the papers and move the dead in the dead of night, you can be sure there's a rat there to be smelled. Thanks, Gayatri. See you soon. I've got a legend on the line. It is Erobos in New York on Trump. Erobos, give us it, both barrels.
Salutations and greetings, Mr. G. Love, peace, and blessings and power to the Galloway clan, the wonderful staff of MOATS, of course, Jaya, the wonderful Jaya, and the MOATS International family, the College of Knowledge. Before I get into Trump, and of course, shout out to Gayatri, wrapped in, the queen of the reptilian empire, royalty. It's little known that
she looked like the Queen of Sheba.
World,
Queen of Sheba.
Yeah, that would also be apropos, because it's little known today that snakes were regarded as wisdom, as the epitome of wisdom and knowledge. And this is why the pharaohs of the old world, they all had those snake hats. And even the Pope that you mentioned, his hat is copied from theirs. The Vicar of the Christ. A lot of what they use in Rome and in these newer religions was also taken and copied from the old world. So, before I get into Trump, I just have to say that Maggie, the caller, made my week. I laughed. I didn't have a good laugh this week, and all I could think was, Maggie, I wish I'd never seen your face. She gave me my laugh that I needed. Brilliant. It was very therapeutic.
Yeah.
Now, as far as Trump, I disagree with most of the view, because I'm looking at the large picture. I think he should continue what he's doing and more, because in order for there will be no peaceful change of empire. Not this empire, not the one before. So in order for this empire and so-called Israel, the Zionist terrorist occupation colony, what I call ZTOC for short, in order for that to be pounded into the dirt and the nails on the coffin, at least militarily, Trump has to keep doing what he's doing, because it's going to force a reaction from the powers that be, as I mentioned from the Middle East article last week. They're focused on business. They're focused on trade, and if Gaza have to be sacrificed, so mote it be. But when the message is clear that they will not be let alone to do business, that they will be attacked, and they're on the menu next, then they were forced to be intervened upon. And the interview with Colonel Macgregor was sublime. It was amazing. And the thing I would add about Trump, and you were one of the first people way out in front mentioning this, that as soon as it was hinted that he is on the Epstein list, and that's becoming more and more clear, you see this hard reactionary right turn. Right now, all of a sudden, he wants to dive in every single war. He wants every single conflict. And I say, good, go ahead, go full steam ahead, because that will destroy this United Snakes military-industrial complex and so-called Israel that has to go down with it.
Wow. Now you can understand why we want and need a weekly segment from the legend that is Erebos in New York. I desist from responding at length, Erebos, to the extraordinary pearls of wisdom that you just delivered, only because I'm 10 minutes late in finishing the show, for which I apologize to my colleagues. Erebos, one of the reasons why I preferred that Trump won rather than Kamala Harris is that Trump, if he did perform at the worst expectation, would so galvanize anti-imperialist feeling around the world and would make it so easy. I mean, it's shooting fish in a barrel. Me getting people riled up about Donald Trump is shooting fish in a barrel. It would have been very much more difficult if the United States empire had been headed by a liberal, dark-skinned, female president called Kamala Harris. A whole segment of America, a whole segment of Europe, a whole segment of many other parts of the world would have been temporarily at least disarmed by this woke, liberal, Democratic Party president, Kamala Harris, even though she would have been doing exactly the same things as Donald Trump is doing. So if both of them are doing exactly the same things, why not sing hallelujah that the one in charge is the very epitome of the ugly American? It's been marvelous for me. I hope it was for you. And if it was, come back on Wednesday for the midweek show, the midweek mother of all talk shows. God willing, I'll be back here, and me and Gayatri will be in the same studio together again at last. I'll be able to take her out for chips after the show. Good night.
It's the mother of all talk shows. It's the mother of all talk shows. It's the mother of all talk shows. Go get 'em, George.